In a village called Omuche lived a young girl named Sarima. She was the eldest child of her widowed mother. Life was hard for Mama Sarima. She struggled each day to make ends meet. But the more she tried, the more things drifted farther apart. Every penny she made from her small stall in the market was swallowed by a mountain of expenses. With 5 children to feed, clothe, and send to school, money was never enough. Like some Nigerian homes, Sarima had long taken on the role of a second mother to her siblings. She was always the first to wake and the last to sleep, often missing school to help in the market, and the one to be blamed if a sibling misbehaved. Don't you know you're their second mother? Her mother would remind her often. You have to take care of your siblings. Sarima dreamt of a life beyond the endless circle of poverty and sacrifice. A life where having 3 meals a day wasn't a luxury. As the final months of Sarima's stay in high school drew closer, she pictured herself in the 4 walls of a university. My pikin, her mother said to her one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. You and your siblings are my only source of joy, and that is why I struggle every day. But I don't have the money to see you through university. The load is too much on me. Have you considered Mr. Amadi's proposal? My child, he's a good man, and he has promised to take good care of you. Mr. Amadi was one of the wealthiest and oldest bachelor in the village. He was almost 42 and had spent his youth hustling. He was finally ready to settle down and was looking for a young, vibrant wife like Sarima. In the months that followed, Sarima was always sad. The weight of her mother's request was too much to carry. This was her chance to lift her family from poverty. So much responsibility for a 17-year-old. It wasn't long before the news of her supposed engagement became gist in the village. One day, her teacher Kemi pulled her aside after class. Sarima, is this truly what you want? Kemi asked. What choice do I have? My family needs me. Sarima said, the future of my siblings depend on me. But at what expense? Teacher Kemi asked. At whose expense? Remember, you are not your siblings' parents. Your parents are. Besides, you don't know this man. You aren't ready to get married. At least if you must get married, do it because you want to, not out of obligation. You deserve your chance to be a child too, no matter your place in the family. You don't have to give up everything. I know times are hard, but you could learn a skill. Think about it. That night, Sarima sat outside gazing at the stars. God abeg, na just speaking a be, wetin I go do? On one end was marriage, a quick solution to all her family's financial needs. And on the other end was a dream she wasn't certain of. Whichever road Sarima decides to take, it won't be an easy journey. If you're enjoying this story, please like and subscribe if you haven't. Sarima was greeted by the chilled morning breeze as she stepped out of her house. She had arrived in Lagos 2 months ago with only 2 clothes wrapped in a tiny bag and the basic sewing skills she had picked up from a friend. Running away at the very last minute before the marriage rites began. She didn't know what lay ahead, but her teacher Kemi, who had moved back to Lagos after completing her youth service, had offered her a place to stay if she ever wanted to come to Lagos. Starting afresh in a new city where no one knew her seemed like a better option. It wasn't difficult getting a sewing job. The real challenge was the little pay, the long distance, and the endless hours spent in traffic. On some days, she slept in the shop just to save transport fare. Yet, at the end of the month, she barely had anything left. As if that wasn't enough, the phone calls from her mother were relentless, each time reminding her of how she had abandoned her family. You just left us and ran away. Remember you're the first child, Sarima, and you have siblings. Every word made her feel guilty. But Sarima knew that if she didn't fight for her dreams now, she might never escape the circle of sacrifices that defined her life.
Conductor, how much?
Sarima asked as she tried boarding a bus. 5 Joe. The bus driver replied. Wetin happen? Na T-pain happen, the driver responded in anger. You know say fuel don cost. Enter bus make we go or comot for road make I fit see passengers carry. It's too early to dey drag price abeg.
Shey na like this person go see money save.
Sarima murmured as she sat inside the almost empty bus. During one of her lunch breaks, she got into a conversation with their friendly neighbor Ochuko. Rima baby, I see you trying to meet up. But not to pressure yourself. If it easy, our parents for don't make am already. Ochuko, who was also the firstborn of his family, was familiar with the unnecessary pressure and expectations placed on firstborns. My dear, I had to learn to say no. Ochuko continued. First son no fit kill himself. Abeg o, make nobody use pressure by me. The discussion with Ochuko didn't automatically solve Sarima's problems, but it informed her there were others like her facing the same pressure from family, some way older than her and still hadn't figured it out. But Chuko's words reminded her that to help her family, she had to stand properly first. As the months rolled by, Sarima's skills improved and so did her income. 3 years later, Sarima opened her own tailoring shop with her little savings. Her younger brother had just gotten admission into the university, and the rest of the siblings were in school as well. Though they still had challenges, but life was better. They could easily afford 3 square meals and other basic necessities. And yes, Sarima did it, but not by sacrificing at her own expense.